Hey guys, welcome. Let's take a dive into the world of ultralight trekking gear with a close look at Decathlon's MT900 one-person tarp tent. I mentioned in a previous video that it was such a shame that Decathlon didn't make any ultralight tents, and lo and behold, they have since come out with a tent that is less than a kilogram, almost exactly 2 pounds, and very affordable as well. And so I could not be more ready to test it. First impressions, apart from it being super light, it is really white, like making you feel you're setting up a minimalist art installation in the woods. White. If you're into wild camping and staying discreet, you are not gonna love this color unless you're aiming to blend in with a snowfield. But you do have to admit that it is a rather sleek look. Setting up, especially the first couple of times, was, let's say, a character building experience. Decathlon's instruction video is a bit basic and skips over the most important part, and that is setting up your trekking poles. Because this tent requires you to bring your own trekking poles. There is not any kind of support structure included in the bag, so you need 2 poles, one of them on the inside, perpendicular, and the other on the outside at a slight angle. And Decathlon says on the website that the ideal height for the poles is 115 to 120 centimeters, and I happen to have 2 pairs that are 120 centimeters fixed length, so I thought I was good. But trying to set those up, you could tell right away that this wasn't going to work because I really had to stretch the fabric. The poles didn't fit in the eyelets. So I thought, okay, wrong sticks. The tent says 115 centimeters on the outside, so I'll just go get the cheapest 115 centimeter poles from Decathlon. That's these guys. At €7 each, adjustable in 5 centimeter increments, they're definitely awesome value. It turns out, however, that the ideal pole height is actually not 115 centimeters either. What you want is a freely adjustable pole so that you can dial in exactly the length the tent needs on either side. I don't have those, and that's probably the reason that I haven't gotten the pitch of this tent to the point where I'm 100% satisfied. Perhaps I'm a bit OCD, but I just love having a tent that's perfectly pitched, everything taut, and that's a bit of a challenge with this one. Now, I've used it on multiple trips, and it's quite stable, totally usable. Decathlon tested it in a wind tunnel, and I have no reason to doubt their findings, especially if you pitch it with a low end facing the wind. So it's fine, but if you're thinking about getting one, having the right kind of trekking pole up front is going to give you a better experience, as will doing some experimenting at home, perfecting your pitch before you head out into the wild. By the way, there's 2 little aluminum stakes at the feet end to give you a bit more clearance. You can take those out, but leaving them in makes the tent a bit quicker to deploy if that is important to you. The included pegs are quite light, very thin, with only the slightest hook on top, so you do want to angle them well. The color makes them easy to miss, easy to lose. Same as the guidelines, by the way, very easy to trip over at night. I usually prefer the color of the tent to be inconspicuous and the guidelines to be bright and visible. Here, it's just the other way around. Can't win them all. Second slight downside before I go back to gushing about this tent is the ventilation. My main tent is a Z-Pex Altiplex, and while it is similar in some ways, also a one-person tent with a vestibule on one side, there is a lot more space underneath the sidewalls, which makes for a lot more ventilation. The tarp tent has the sidewalls pitched a lot lower, so the mesh doesn't go all the way to the bottom, and that makes it better suited for slightly colder weather, but it does compromise ventilation. So there was a little more condensation than I'm used to with everything closed up. If the weather is fine and you have the luxury of being in a setting where you don't have to worry about other people at all, I think there's a lot to be said for just leaving the front flap open. That way you can skip dealing with the condensation in the morning and maybe witness a beautiful sunrise from bed while you're at it. Comfort is about what you'd expect from a tent this small. It's very narrow, just the width of a sleeping mat. You put your phone in the mesh pocket on the side and maybe some other small tidbits above your head if you're not too tall, but that really is it. Your backpack goes in the vestibule. In a one-person tent in this weight class, that's just what you get. If you need more space, I think the Lanshan 2 Pro is still a solid option, but remember, that is an AliExpress adventure with all the shipping delays and import fees that entails. Decathlon, on the other hand, offers a solid warranty and guarantees spare parts for years after purchase, so that is the safer bet, I think. But I was talking about comfort. Size-wise, I think this tent is large enough for people up to 185 centimeters, 6'1", maybe a bit taller. It's high enough to sit up straight. I had no issues changing clothes and stuff, but of course, if you're sitting for hours waiting for it to stop raining, you're gonna wish you brought a bigger tent. There is no getting around that with these types of shelters. The white fabric means that this is a very bright tent, which is probably going to be a good thing during the day and a bad thing while you're trying to sleep in. It's not a festival tent by any stretch of the imagination. It's part of the Decathlon's minimal edition, with the undyed fabrics being more ecologically friendly. Is this a big win on a polyester tent like that? I can't really tell. I imagine keeping your older, heavier tent a few years longer will probably be more beneficial, but hey, every bit counts, and I appreciate them at least making the effort. It's a bit early for me to talk about durability. I'm just a couple of trips in with this tent, but if I run into anything, I'll add it to the comments. The fabrics are very Decathlon. They are fans of polyester for hiking tents. I don't think they have anything in the lineup that isn't, but of course in this case they've opted for lighter versions. 20 denier for the fly, 40 denier for the bathtub. There's nothing here that feels flimsy by ultralight standards, and that very light all-in-one design also means that it's easy to dry out during the day. I'd probably be extra careful with the zipper when getting in and out, given the way it's connected to the trekking pole. But of course, that's always good advice because zippers are always a common point of failure, and you can't just patch them the way you can with the fabric. I've used it in the rain, but not in very heavy rain, so I can't really comment on that. Regular rain, no issues so far. I would expect condensation to be a bigger issue altogether given the ventilation issue, but that's mostly skill, I guess, in keeping the inner and outer nicely separated so you don't get any moisture on your sleeping bag. Okay, let's wrap it up. At first, I was a bit confused as to why Decathlon calls this a tarp tent, because it's basically just a very compact double wall tent that happens to use trekking poles for structure. Maybe that's because you can leave that inner at home, use it as more of a tarp style shelter, or maybe it's also Decathlon's way of saying this is for experienced hikers. It takes a bit of tinkering. Don't expect this to be the easiest or the most polished experience. And that's probably true for a lot of ultralight equipment. You have to work with it to get the best results. Now, another thing that's usually true about ultralight equipment is that it is pricey. And that does hold up in Decathlon's hiking lineup as well. Usually, the lighter a tent is, the more expensive. So it's very refreshing to see that the tarp tent breaks that mold by being both the lightest and the cheapest hiking tent that they sell, which makes it a great entry-level ultralight tent. It's not without compromises. It takes some getting used to, but the weight savings are real, especially if you are already carrying trekking poles. So I'm really happy that Decathlon took the plunge into ultralight tents, and I think this is a very solid first entry. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.